tell you, we saw the movie.
We love the movie, by the way. It was really,
Thank you.
yeah, it was, once again, you so many choices out there. And when you click on something, it grabbed our attention so quickly.
We got sucked in within 2 minutes.
I know. It was a fun ride, so kudos.
You guys, we got sucked into this movie, and we have the director, Baotron. He is here right now. Now, Bao, we know that this movie started out with some of your own personal experiences, but can you tell us, how did this movie come to be?
Wow, yeah. I mean, basically, making this movie is about 10 years in the process in the making to get to where we are today. I wrote this basically pen to paper about 10 years ago, started writing the script. And then I was just kind of thinking about a lot of things that I was passionate about when I was younger, and that was filmmaking and martial arts. And somehow things for myself kind of got away from that. You know, I was a little jaded and cynical about certain things. And I just wanted to kind of reconnect with the things that kind of give me hope and joy. And this is a story about that. It's about these guys that are finding their roots and discovering the things that they're once passionate about and whether it's still worth passing on.
Yeah, which one of the things, you know, the relationship between all the characters, it was so like, you believe that these guys have known each other all those years.
And that's what's
That
interesting
was so
too,
cool.
is because this is a martial arts movie, you guys. So if you're really into kung fu or gong fu, this is the movie for you.
It's more than just martial arts. The story and the journey, you know, with father and son. It's got everything.
That was more important. So
yeah, it was. It related to that.
We want to know about, first off, do all these guys know each other in real life? How did you cast this film? Is it a regular casting, or they feel like they've known each other for years?
Well, thank you. I'm glad it worked because they actually had just met each other maybe about 6 or 7
Kudos to you. Brilliant.
But you know, it's again a testament to their hard work as actors. Once they got into rehearsals, they dove into it. They started working together. They hung out with each other even off the clock, and became fast friends. So you can't help but have that stuff show up on screen when they actually genuinely like each other and actually have put in the work for the rehearsals and their craft. So yeah, I mean that's the vibe, and that's the feeling that we always want to convey. Because how do you convey best friends but who have a falling out in a lot of different ways, and be able to have that still be comfortable and familiar that the audience can relate to.
Yeah, what I found really fascinating, it had a lovely sense of humor.
When you don't expect it.
Is that your sense of humor?
It's because I was just dying. You know what got me, you guys? Is wow, when he was like, oh my gosh, it's like Carter is like, what's wrong with you? You look skinny. Are you sick? What's wrong with you? You look fat. Are you sick?
Rogaine, I smell Rogaine.
I know.
That's brilliant.
And he was like, no, we just came for breakfast. And he goes, what do you mean? What did you have? And we had pizza. And he goes, who has pizza for breakfast? He was like, no, it's breakfast pizza. Haven't you heard of that before? I mean, just these are was this stream of conscious? Was this ad lib? Or did you write this in the script?
It's beautiful banter.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, their banter, I mean, again, to them, like a lot of it was in the script to kind of give them the relationships. In the case, you guys are kind of old bickering. They're old friends, but also not old friends in a lot of ways. And the banter was, a lot of that was ad-lib. Again, the actors just started having fun with it. Incredible improvisational actors, and we were just there for the ride and just capture the magic.
Yeah.
What part was ad-lib? You've got to tell us, because there were so many parts that we were just like, what?
Hard to say, you know, it's like, I think that's the beauty of it. It's when everyone's just playing and dancing with each other, you don't really know who's what and who's leading who. And that's where the fun of it really comes from, because, you know, they actually did have that kind of vibe against each other, and you just kind of sit and watch what happens.
Yeah, that's the beauty of it, because a lot of times, with your vision, your script is an outline, and then there's magic once you get on set with actor. I believe actors are like chemicals. Certain ones, there's a reaction, and it's fun to watch what's happening, and that's the beauty of this lovely art form that we're all involved in. It was cool.
Like when Danny is there outside by the pool, and he's like, and Hing's like, well, show us your stamp, and Danny's like, well, I can't roll up my sleeve because I didn't expect that you were going to have me do this right now. It was such a real moment. I felt like that had to be, was it improv? Because it was so hilarious.
That was improv, yeah. I mean, that's definitely a spontaneous moment between the two, and just kind of like, again, showing how hesitant Danny is trying to get into this kung fu world, getting back into this kung fu world, and how kind of strong-headed, Hing is, his brother that's trying to force him into this leadership role that he doesn't want to necessarily take up yet. So yeah, that's again came from the relationships that they had from rehearsals and building those characters together.
Yeah, and what was
And
it?
it came out. It was great.
Is it Carter, the only white guy?
Yes.
It's Carter, right?
Yeah.
That he was that his delivery is so like that
Intense.
deadpan kind of like whatever that you're just you don't know what's going to come out of his mouth, and he executes that stuff brilliantly.
Well, tell us about casting Matthew Page as Carter. He is the only, I hate the white guy in the. He's so
a token white guy.
funny. Tell us about casting him and why you specifically cast him as an actor in this film.
Yeah, well, I mean, pulling back, this is kind of a story that's wanted to reflect my own upbringing. When I started martial arts, we had classmates and students of all different types of stripes and colors and races, and it was just a rainbow connection. We all had we're there for a common cause, which is punching each other in the face. But we made fast friends with a lot of people, and so we did have a lot of fun with our colorful, stuff that's very diverse. But also, there tends to be, always this one white guy who kind of takes it way too seriously. So we wanted to kind of have fun with that. And then Carter is kind of that embodiment. But also, he's the one that's dedicated to the craft of Kung Fu, actually, as opposed to our heroes. So that creates kind of a nice contrast. And it's not as, as straightforward as you think it is. It's a lot more complex as things go on in the film. And Matthew Page is an incredibly talented actor and performer. He actually has a sketch show, martial arts sketch show called Into the Dojo. It's on YouTube as well. So it's like
he's in great shape too. He's
in great shape. Yeah, and so we were huge fans of the show, and just like we just kept in touch. And when it came to the point where we were finally ready to make the movie, I reached out and was able to kind of offer him the role because we'd love to have him on board. And he just came in and knock the door down.
Yeah.
No, he just like nailed it.
Yeah, no.
He
And
just
what was
absolutely nailed it.
the lovely arc? What was the line when he basically goes to Danny and says?
Like he understands.
He understands
like you said, it's deeper than what it is.
That which
was
is
the more
a beautiful
respectable one,
yes.
and so he offers
Yes.
his hand, and I think that's a really turning moment for Carter's character in the film, because at first he's kind of full of himself, and there is a thing in the Asian community, and it's not said, Bao, but I felt it, which was what I love being Asian American, is that when they use the term egg, somebody's an egg or a banana. Do you know? Egg is like, for those of you guys who don't know or watching right now, we always say egg is somebody who's like Caucasian on the outside and Asian on the inside. And reverse, the banana is Asian on the outside and Caucasian on the inside. I know you don't know. You have no clue. But what's so funny about is you illustrate it without saying it, because there's times when Hing and Danny, Carter's sitting here saying everything in these big Chinese statements, and Hing and Danny are sitting there at the desk like, dude, just why didn't you just say it in English? What did that guy say? I don't know. Just say it in English. Why do you have to go in all these? Because he's so, and he even said, he goes, we Chinese, which we were dying laughing. Yeah. Because, in his mind, he takes it, which is awesome and respectful, he takes it so seriously. And the other guys are kind of coming from middle age, having been gone for 2 decades from this world where Carter stayed in it from the beginning. For those of you guys who are out there who don't know, this movie starts, in 1986?
Yeah, thereabouts.
And then goes to 1993.
Yeah. And beautifully based on...
Executed that way.
Executed with, with the videos and coming back and really establishing that relationship just perfectly. And then as you transition into it, it was just a lovely
This is
execution.
what we love, Bao. We noticed at the very beginning how we're using this kind of cinema verite way of showing through the video that the people, everybody's credit was actually the same font as the video time code. At the beginning, because 1986.
Well thought out.
Yes, I mean, you wrote all this out in like you said, this script that took 10 years.
Yeah. I mean, thanks for appreciating that. Yeah, that's the little things that we kind of want to put in, just kind of like almost as a tribute to our video days. At least that was our YouTube. It was before
Yeah.
YouTube. That was before everything. It was just videotaping stuff and then having a collection. And that's how I kind of learned to make movies. Is just kind of grabbing our family camcorder and going out in the backyard and filming, various stories and sketches and skits and all that. All that is part of that memory of growing up and my association of growing up and learning about filmmaking and learning martial arts. So that's all that was definitely a flavor and an ode to all that.
Yeah, so it was amazing. Before you came on, we were talking. I remember being a kid and watching Rocky.
Yeah.
Growing up, it really moved me and motivated me. Where I'm drinking, I'm drinking the eggs, and we was trying it. So I have to share this with you. After I watched this, I was out in my garden. And the thing where you're standing on the paint can and doing that? I had to try that.
So he was
So I have a
obsessed.
picture of this, me trying to do that.
We have to show
I was
you
obsessed with
about,
this.
and for you guys out there, this is what Doug was obsessed with the next 3 hours after watching this film. This is why you need to watch this film. I don't know if you guys
Can you see me? My form's a little ugly,
Can you
but
see
actually,
it?
I got it.
Yeah. Oh, nice.
I couldn't get
I'm trying to get it to where you guys can see it. Anyways, you
I'm gonna
guys,
pull it back.
this is really a big part of the beginning of the movie when the main three characters are with
training.
their Sifu. And so he was so excited about it that
it speaks volumes.
he stood on a can.
I stood on a can trying to figure out how to do it. And I was trying to get the form because I was able to get down, then I watched it, then my leg was up. I was trying to get my leg completely horizontal, and then I wanted my back straight, which I wasn't able to quite do that.
So, tell us about your martial arts background, because I know it plays a big part in this film.
Yeah, well, I'm based out of Seattle, Washington, and we have a huge history of Bruce Lee, because when Bruce Lee first came to America, he spent his early years here in Seattle. He opened his kung fu school here. He met his wife here. He went to the University of Washington. So a lot of those his shadow kind of hangs very large in this martial arts community here, because he started teaching non-Chinese kung fu. And he started teaching a lot of different people of different races and, again, different stripes and colors. Kung Fu, even though it was controversial and not necessarily accepted by the Chinatown elders, if you will.
Oh, to share. To share that magic.
Exactly. So he thought of Kung Fu for the world and not necessarily just for Chinese people. So that was a huge, groundbreaking, effort for him. And so a lot of his students still teach to this day. So I was able to train in this world and also learn martial arts under so many different, styles and just kind of really appreciate the art of martial arts here in the Pacific Northwest.
Wow. So did movies like Enter the Dragon, which was a big movie for me, and I got you all into it,
Yeah.
now you love it as well. Did that influence you as not only a martial artist, but also as an Asian American filmmaker?
Yeah, absolutely. Because kind of looking back, Bruce Lee was really the only kind of sole Asian American that you could look at on screen. He is an Asian American. He was born in San Francisco and then went to Hong Kong to grow up in his teen years, came back. So he is, definitively an Asian American. So then when we were able to see him, and I was born a little bit after his passing, but you kind of grew up seeing just his movies being in his posters and nunchucks and all that stuff, like part of that culture. Definitely is a huge role model. And so Enter the Dragon and all those other films were just really fun watches and just inspirational to kind of aspire to what we could have as far as Asian American presence in movies and TV, and just kind of what that could mean as far as having a hero that looked like us.
Yeah, and there's so much. We always talk discipline, the discipline that it takes, the commitment to whatever you're doing is really so valuable. Not only in that, but if you apply that to every aspect of your life, it's really amazing how you can change your life.
Well, that's what I love too about the Paper Tigers, is you were talking about Sifu. He had not really, you didn't know about what a Sifu is and how.
Master Father.
Yes, and
Master
a lot of people
Father.
don't know that. And a lot of people also don't know about the philosophy behind Kung Fu. It's not just fighting, that there's an entire culture. It's a very alive and thriving culture. Can you explain a little bit about that culture? And I love the way that you were able to interweave that into this film.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, just kind of pulling back a little bit more, like Sifu could also be meant to apply to anyone that is a master of their craft. You know, it's not even just Kung Fu. Kung Fu also means just hard work and accomplishment. That's kind of the literal meaning of it. So
Wow.
even broader speaking, you know, anyone that could see this movie but appreciates, you know, any type of mastery, any type of you know, cultivation of skill or passing on skill, I hope, you know, can also appreciate it from that point of view. You may not even know martial arts. You may not even like, you know, kung fu and maybe think it's too violent or whatever, but hopefully, you know, when you see this movie, you can have some access and kind of see it from that point of view, because you know, a cook could be called a sifu just because they're a master chef and so on. So like this just kind of understanding what mastery is really kind of like something I think is universal. But in particular, you know, with kung fu, the Chinese kung fu and those relationships to their master and their to each other, it's really important. It's almost like a family. You know, they really use like brother and sister terms and father mother terms as you when you refer to your teacher and your classmates. And that's what we also want to kind of convey is just that kind of that family relationship aspect of martial arts, and also just how much you owe to each other, you know, to help each other build each other up and support
Yeah.
each other and so on. So that's just kind of all the lessons that you can pull from Kung Fu.
Yeah, it's very important too. And once again, you had said this film really encompasses everything. You might not be into, you know, the kung fu aspect of it, but it's also about relationships.
What- and it's about the family.
The family.
Be-
It makes you laugh.
Well,
It makes you
it does.
smile, and it pulls the little heartstrings somewhere in deep down inside.
Well, also because like we were talking about family just now, Bao, when you were saying it talks like we started in 1986, then we went to 94, then we see these guys 20 years later, and then when their Sifu passes away, it's Carter at the funeral when they're like, oh, you know, well, they're like, what happened? Hing is like, what really happened to him? And Carter looks at him and he goes, well, where have you been? You know, where have you been?
Yeah.
Like basically you have not been around as your mentor, your Sifu for 20 years, you haven't been around, you know? And then when they have another protege, the protege says, well, what do you expect? You know, his sons haven't been around. Wouldn't you expect him to have another protege? It's all
Yeah.
about family, as though they are a nuclear family, a real nuclear family.
Yeah.
And I really, really appreciated that. It's not just martial arts, so people that are maybe not a fan of martial arts are
Yeah,
still
but
going to
yeah,
get into this film.
there's a message.
You know?
There's totally a message.
Yeah.
There's so many elements. And first watching it, and the character is the toupee. I'm like, man, that's a bad toupee.
Then when Hing
like,
is
what are
wearing
you
the toupee-
doing? And then later on, you
There was a
pay it
toupee.
off so beautifully when they battle and he's got the hair on. I was laughing.
And also, you know, tell us about, like, if you are a fan of martial arts, you guys out there, tell us about some of these people that you cast. Brian Lay, who did the standing backflip in the
Yeah.
pool. Explain.
He's a big guy,
These
too.
are honest to
That's
goodness
not
martial
easy.
artists, right?
Yeah.
Not easy. Yeah, amazing martial artists, amazing talented. So we mentioned Matt Page, but also the younger punks, we call them. It's Philip
Yes.
Jang, Andy Lay, Brian Lay,
Brian.
incredibly talented martial arts. They have their own YouTube channels and Instagram channels that you can go see and follow. But yeah, they're like that next generation on the next level. So it's exciting to kind of see them pit them against, you know, these old guys, our old heroes, and see, you know, the sparks fly, because that's exactly what we wanted to do. It's that young and old, and almost like we were saying, these old guys almost seeing the vision of themselves in a lot of ways and facing their
Yeah.
own personal,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, the cockiness of the young guys, like Brian Lay, is like, come on, you know. But seeing, really, did you guys find him on YouTube? Because I was so shocked at the talent, we actually rewound it to watch
To
it
watch it, we
again.
watched that twice. It was
Yeah.
pretty amazing.
So is that how you guys found him?
Super good, yeah. Yeah, we found him. Yeah, we found him. You know, they post their short films and their stunt videos and their tricking reels and all their stuff online, so you can just follow them. And we reached out. I actually worked with them, a couple of them, with some projects before, so we always kind of kept in touch and so on, and just kind of watch them grow and blossom. And so it's cool to have this opportunity, finally have another opportunity to work together on a feature film. So yeah, they're so talented. I'm excited for what's next for them. They've got a lot of big things ahead for them.
Yeah, and another
Definitely.
thing too, 10 years in the making. So, once again, this platform is all about sharing and giving back. And you have to believe, you have to have passion, you have to lock and load. And as long as you keep going after it, if it's meant to be, it will finally happen.
Well,
So,
that actually brings a good question, because this was going up for 10 years. I know that when you were looking at some of the big studios, I want you to explain this as an Asian American director and your desire to have Asian American actors. When the big studios saw this script, you were saying that they would be interested in having, and I think he's an awesome actor, but like people like Bruce Willis and everybody playing these main parts. Can you explain how impassioned you were to hold out to make sure you got the right people cast?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, this is kind of an image or an homage to my childhood and things that I knew and growing up and the truths that I had as far as I diverse, kung fu school, and also my friends that were Asian American and Black Americans and Hispanic Americans and so on. Like, we were a very colorful bunch, and we all studied together. And I wanted to create this world and have a movie that reflected that. And so when we went around to pitch it in Hollywood, and we had a lot of interest, but how they had different ideas. They liked the idea, but they wanted to kind of change the casting choices to basically white movie stars, to make it more bankable and make it more, you could have a person you could recognize, like the names you mentioned, on a poster and be able to go to it. So that's kind of the way things are done. And unfortunately, it's kind of a long history, as we know, like from all the way back to The Good Earth and
With Oman,
Tiffany's and Genghis Khan with John Wayne and so on. So it's a very long sordid history of Hollywood, kind of like trying to do these what we call race bending and changing the races of the intention of the piece and the characters. So yeah, we just said thanks but no thanks, and we had some interest and a lot of serious offers, but we had just kind of be able to walk away and wanted to make the movie and tell the story that we wanted to do. And so we turned to Kickstarter, and we turned to our community here in Seattle to be able to help support the film. We shot the film here in Seattle, basically kind of away from all the centers of filmmaking, really, and just kind of did it as our own grassroots community effort.
Yeah, I could not imagine different characters in those roles. It just worked. It was your apotheosis, if you will, your highest. It's the way it was the way it was meant to be.
Well, how do you feel now with movies like Crazy Rich Asians, for example, where people said, oh, well, nobody is going to come see a film where Asian Americans are the lead actors, the protagonists in the film. Now, we all came out and everybody is supporting movies like that and movies like The Paper Tigers. Do you think that as an Asian American filmmaker, you're going to be setting the bar and we're going to be seeing more films like this now?
I hope so.
Yeah, I hope so too. Yeah, for the good of my career, I hope so too. But it's a similar thing, exactly. Not just Crazy Rich Asians, but I have in mind, say, Black Panther and so on. There's just so much work for our different characters and different groups that just need to be more diverse and basically tell stories from our perspective. And I think that's what we're trying to try to push out there. And it's also kind of like who creates these stories and who's kind of in the driver's seat, if you will, and be able to kind of like tell the stories from the truth of their perspective. And that's really important for us. So it's not just like, ticking the numbers and just having X amount of Asian Americans, X amount of African Americans and so on in a story or in a movie, but like actually like who's driving the engine and who's actually telling those stories in a way that's like honest and truthful. So that's kind of like the fine point. So we're very excited for what's going on, but we have a lot of work to do, to be honest. And
how about a sequel? Sequel to Paper?
Oh, yeah, that's very flattering. It sounds like everyone's very excited.
Yeah, because those guys were so
more from these characters.
Yeah,
it's exciting. Yeah. We'll see how it goes. Yeah, hopefully this movie can continue to do well and do even better than what we've been doing. And since we're on Blu-ray and hopefully reach a new audience, but if there's a lot more interest, definitely that's all interesting possibility.
Yeah, because I was this morning. I got up and I was checking it out. I was on Rotten Tomatoes. Amazing.
Read some of these. He printed it out by himself, you guys.
This is my favorite one. I call it
not gonna
cinematic comfort food. It will. I call it cinematic comfort food, if you will, but it sure feels good going down. That's kind of cool. It would be easy just to recommend this film for fans of Cobra Kai or anyone looking for some low-stakes action fun, but it would be a disservice to this impressive, warm little debut to discount its profound heart. I mean, that's what it's about, and that's what it did to me.
It is the martial arts, and for those of you guys who are out there who are martial arts fans, this is a movie you will love to watch. That being said, what I think really, there was one line in the movie, Val, that really hit me that I think encompasses the whole thing when they were talking about the Sifu, and they were like, I really think what made him most happy was that he was just in the garage teaching us. That's what he really loved to do. That's what made him most happy. And I think that line, for me, was just like, that's really the meat of, tell me what you think of that, Bao. I think that's the meat of the whole movie.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly kind of what you're touching in on. Is like that relationship is really, it wasn't about the accolades or the wins that you get in Kung Fu or all the victories. It's just being able to pass on, this art that you worked so hard on and want to pass on to your sons, essentially, and your children and your children's children. And it's just that idea of having something that we find valuable that we received elsewhere, but also be able to pass on to the next generation. So that's, all in a nutshell, just the relationships of what Kung Fu really means to all of us and how much we want to preserve, the things that were given to us and give honor to it.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like you were doing that in the car, and this morning you were saying, yesterday you were saying, maybe I can start Kung Fu myself.
Yeah, you gotta become a little more flexible.
Exactly, never too low. You already got a head start on those paint cans, so there you go.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna try it too. I watch it, and I'm somebody it's got to be perfect, and be able to get my perfect on my butt, so I'm like that, and my back straight, and that leg crossed over.
He was in front of the mirror. It was crazy.
It was a great workout too. It was a great workout.
It was crazy.
It's a thigh burner. It's a quad burner.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
He was like, "This is harder than you think."
I know.
I was like, "I know."
So in real life, who was your Sifu? Who was the gentleman that mentored you?
Oh, I mean, I have so many. I mean, really, I also think of my movie Sifu. I have people who taught me, martial action filmmaking. Corey Yun is one of the most well-known Hong Kong film directors. He grew up with Jackie Chan and Sammo Hung, and from that generation, and directed, Jet Li and The Transporter and so on.
Oh wow!
Oh, wow.
So I was fortunate. Yeah, I was fortunate to kind of cross paths with him as a young lad, and he kind of took me under his wing and taught me
that is so
all these
cool
things about movies and martial arts action filmmaking, and that I was able to soak all that up. So I'm very thankful for that type of relationship as well. So I mean, yeah, we teachers all over, every life is your Sifu in a lot of ways.
Yeah, really, when you think about it.
Sit and pay attention, But yeah, so definitely I have in mind Corey as just a great mentor and again, an example of a teacher just who didn't have to, back to what we were talking about. He didn't have to pass on this knowledge, and yet he did. So
that's what you do when you pass it on. You get back. And I love you speaking of that when you just popped into my brain. The little effect when Danny realizes that he can see it coming, and your lovely little slow mo. I thought it was beautiful. Nicely executed.
Oh, there were so many scenes I thought were so interesting, even when they're fighting the young guys in the back of the restaurant, and the music you used, you automatically think when they're running it's going to be like that. It goes da 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 da, and then it goes, and then they end up falling on the ground.
They're both back to back going,
smoking a cigarette on the ground. Oh my gosh, it's so funny. We were dying laughing. It's the beginning of the film. Mikhail Shannon Jenkins, let's talk about him for a moment, because he is the one African-American gentleman in the cast. I was reading, it's really interesting. He was saying, he grew up in the South, and he had not had any exposure to Asian American or Asian culture in regards to martial arts, in regards to food, in regards to people.
Really?
And he said he had some preconceived notions of what it was like to be around Asians. And he said that it was completely changed after he hung out with these guys. So it didn't elaborate. I was really interested. What did he think of Asian American culture before, and then how did it change after?
Yeah, well, I've heard him mention those things in a couple of the interviews that we've been doing together, so I can speak maybe a little to it. I don't know the full history But yeah, exactly. Just kind of growing in the South, it's kind of like either very specific, basically black and white kind of culture in the South. So there's not a lot of Asians down there. So probably he wasn't able to interact with a lot of Asian Americans in that time of his life. But yeah, and then when we came up to Seattle, like I said, it's such a multicultural and diverse community here in Seattle. We have a Chinatown, but we actually call it Chinatown International District because we wanted to kind of like acknowledge that when the Chinese first came to America, there were also Japanese and Filipinos that were part of the early wave of immigrants as well. So it's not just a Chinatown, and so we call it International District now. So we have a new wave of Vietnamese and Cambodian and Hmong people coming into this area. So we just want to kind of capture all that. So that's what's special about Seattle is that it's growing and it's still the identity of Chinatown International District is still changing. The story's still being written. And so imagine in Macau kind of dropping down in the middle of this and seeing, what it is and the city as a vibe and how accepting we are and how open we are to everybody. Exactly. I think he saw that and appreciated all the familiar things that he knew in his culture were also the same things with us, family, honor, respect,
Yeah.
All those things just expressed in a different cultural way. But those were things that he grew up, valuing as well. So that was a great moment for us to kind of like have that connection. And he became fast friends with Danny, Elaine Ooi, who plays Danny, and Ron Yuan, who plays Hing, and they just became fast brothers. And I think it's a testament to that they just kind of bonded so fast, again, in 7 weeks, to kind of like be able to kind of convey the deep relationship that the characters have.
Yeah, it was we had said it before, but
They look like
they've known each other
forever.
forever. And once again, it's we are all the same. I mean, let's face it, we all come from the same place, and just being open and the awareness that it's just a beautiful thing.
What I thought was interesting with Mikkel is that I'm also from the South, and I saw that and it really stuck in my mind because he's right. In the South, there are very few Asian Americans. So I'm from Texas. I didn't know if he was around the same area. And then how was he in specific cast? Was he somebody you knew? Or it was just he came to a casting and fit that? And also, like you said, when you were growing up, is he somebody specific in the script that you knew kind of based on
That's a good question.
your childhood?
Yeah, I'll answer the last question first. Yeah, it's similar. Again, Bruce Lee's first student was a Black American, Jesse Glover, and when he was 19 or 20 years old, they met each other, and he taught him kung fu, and Jesse had came to kung fu because he had dealt with a lot of trauma and issues growing up and with racial segregation, and he wanted to learn how to defend himself. And so immediately Bruce Lee had this image of what America is and kind of what is potential and what could be possible by sharing kung fu to the rest of the world. So that that kind of story and that idea always stuck in my mind that kung fu is for everybody, and that kung fu is not just for Chinese people or Asian people, but it's meant to be shared, and something that's important is meant to be shared, like we were talking about. So that's definitely kind of the inspiration. Also, again, to kind of my classmates and all the various friends that we had, and just the vibe and feeling. And Mikkel came to us through auditions and through casting. Our casting director searched high and low to be able to find. It's really hard. It's very specific. We had to find people that could act, but also could do martial arts. So it's a very narrow, actually list when you actually look at it and you put out the casting call. So we were very fortunate to have Mikkel come in and work with us and basically just blew us away in the auditions and all that stuff. So he was a great find.
Yeah, there was a scene that really stood out with Mikkel, where when they're fighting the young guys and he gets hit and he comes back up and he goes, "Did he just hit me?"
Oh, no,
It was like,
okay.
It's okay. It was a great kind of just delivery on that. I'm like, oh, okay.
But also, when they were hitting the punching bags, and once again, the humor just comes out of nowhere when they were talking about the right sound, when you have to hit the bag the right way. And then Hing was like, well, I know what I'm talking about. It's like, well, how do you know what you're talking about? And it's like, we're kind of like the Martin Luther King of Kung Fu. I was just dying laughing. There were so many parts in this movie that were so funny. And also, there were kind of cameos. Tell us about Yuji Okamoto. Do you know him? And that's why you put him in as the is it a maitre d' or a waiter? I'm going to tell you a story about him in a moment, but go ahead and tell me how you know him and how he got put into the film.
Yeah, well, Yuji Okamoto is actually our producer, one of the producers on the
Oh,
film.
wow.
I needed to fill the role, so we just threw him in for the role. Yeah. But as you know, he's also an actor, so he's an actor slash producer and restaurateur. So he's based out of here in Seattle, and we worked on so many projects together. And as this movie was coming together, I asked him to come on board as a producer. So he's been a long time, collaborator on this film, and we all, as a matter of teamwork, just kind of got this across the finish line together. So I'm very proud and happy to have him a part of our team. And so yeah, he's also, as known in Karate Kid 2 and Cobra Kai, and so there's kind of a nice kind of a little touch to kind of throw him in there with these tigers and watch him interact. And he was a lot of fun. He had a lot of fun on that day to be actually play in front of the camera, because usually behind the camera producing is a lot of putting out fires and making sure everything, the trains are running on time. So it was cool to kind of get him in costume and actually put him in with the actors.
That's so funny, because I knew, didn't he, and I may be wrong, didn't he move up there to open a restaurant or something?
Yeah, he moved to, so he was originally in LA and with Hawaii roots, and then he came up to Seattle to raise his family and also start a restaurant. So it's a Hawaiian restaurant called Kona Kitchen in Seattle. So if anyone swings by into the Seattle area, please come check it out. It's great grind.
Because
you had grind.
Yeah. You had worked with him years ago,
I have
right?
a funny story, and you've got to tell him. It's that he's not going to remember this. But 30 years ago, almost 30 years ago, he was in an episode of Murder, She Wrote. So remind him of this. And it was my first role ever, and I played his wife, Kim Hwan's wife, and he pulls me out of a burning building, and I'm a factory worker who's there illegally, and I die on the street. So anyways, and I die in his arms. And it was my first role ever. I had no lines. I die in Yuji's arms. And what I remembered is me just coming here from Texas, not knowing anything. At the end of the day, he looked me right in the eye, he shook my hand, and he goes, "Candace, I am going to see more of you in bigger roles. I am going to see more of you." And he went on, and I remember it stuck in my mind so clearly that this person had faith in me. He looked right in my eyes and had not done a role. He impressed me so much in his positivity. Please tell him that. And I don't think he's going to remember, but I think he'll remember being on Murder, She Wrote.
I will. I will definitely. That's an incredible story. Thank you so much. And that kind of speaks to the fight that we still have, and the fight that's been going on for many years, trying to get more roles and more presence in entertainment and out there. And again, it's just that catch-22. Like, how do you have Asian American stars if you don't give them roles, if you don't build them up, or you don't put them in? And you'll never have stars if you don't give them a chance. So that's exactly what you're touching on. It's so important.
Yeah, it takes people like you that are not going to follow the normal path in the iconoclast. You're going to go out there and you go, "No, I'm going to do." So kudos once again to holding. You didn't sell it out. You believed in what you had, and that's what it takes to the catalyst for change out there in Hollywood.
Well, I think the Bao had a good script, and he knew it, and he wasn't going to sell out. So he was going to do exactly what he wanted. Let's talk about Ron and Alan too, because they've done so much. Ron especially is in the new Mulan. So let's talk briefly about their careers and how you got to have them in the film.
Yeah, Ron is an incredible talent. I'm sure if it's one of those type of guys that you may not know him by name, but once you see his face, like, you kind of recognize him.
Yeah, I recognize him. Yes. And the toupee kind of threw me off, but.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And so, Ron's been in so many works as just a character actor and just kind of like, a stalwart, always in like incredible stuff. And Mulan, most recently, and that was probably what you might have most seen him. I think he's plays Donnie Yen's right-hand man and the trainer of all of Mulan and her cohorts and all that. So that's a probably well-known piece that he's in recently. And Elaine Uy is just an incredible talent who plays Danny. He is most recently in Marvel's Hellstrom. I believe it's streaming on Hulu or something like that. But yeah, he was on the network for a Marvel series, but also on the morning show as well. I think with I don't know the name of the cast, but I know it was quite popular with some people. So Elaine has been working on a lot of stuff that's been very, very, very prominent. And True Detective, he was also on that one as well. So yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And
you were like, when you saw Ron, you were like, I know that guy. It's that guy. So you see, you don't know his name, but you've seen him a gajillion times.
yeah, and the actress that played Danny's wife was really
so good.
Yeah, it was amazing. You know, she embodied that
mom
and going through the relationship with the
divorce and everything,
and not being the father that he needed to be. I mean, it's just kind of like wow.
And that's another thing, Bao, is you really bring in. Yes, this is funny and it's martial arts, but you also bring in real life. Middle-aged situations for people, that you made it so real. Did you touch on these in your own life, seeing people go through one middle-age crises, getting older, people getting divorced? Did you bring that from your own world into this? Because it feels very real.
Yeah, I mean, just looking around, I don't have a particular story to draw upon, but yeah, just kind of like getting older, the things that happen, again, moving away from the ideals. And again, the ideals could have been your ideals about Kung Fu, but it can also be your ideals about marriage and your ideas of what that means and how that changes. And we all go through those changes and we rediscover ourselves through those processes. And it's almost like in a way of like, do we kind of like touch back to what inspired us originally, or have we changed so much? Again, it's just like, once you kind of sit down with your thoughts, a lot of stuff can come out, and that's what I was trying to do, with the script, and just kind of bring out all those different experiences, because we can have these three heroes, react very differently, or there's a lot of ways to drift away from your master, right? One is complete abandonment, one is kind of a slow drip away and slow, kind of a slow fading out, and another is just a complete, falling out. So, that's just such an interesting process for these guys to watch these guys go through in the story and see how they just kind of discover their roots.
Yeah, it was a beautiful execution. So, you mind if I ask how old are you?
I'm 4-0.
4-0. So I'm
This is 40.
Yeah, so we have another show. It's called Doug Jeffrey Fit Over 50. So maybe you can come on and we can, because I loved the little competition and the challenge. Tony Hill, 62 years old, amazing. Talk about in shape. So it's all about just sharing and trying to just edify and teach people of working out and eating correctly. And then there's always the challenge at the end, that fun little challenge, the competition of who's gonna win.
Bao
you probably will.
You. That's
the fun thing about it.
He's gonna smoke you. I'm just letting you know. You guys, now I want to show you. This is gonna pop up right underneath Bao. He's not gonna see it. You guys are gonna see it. This is Paper Tigers.
The trailer? Oh.
This is the Paper Tigers.
Okay.
And so you can get this right now on Amazon Prime. You can rent it in high definition. You can also purchase it right here on Amazon. Now this dropped on the 22nd, right? Is what you were telling me. So this is how we saw it, you guys. This is an amazing movie, and I want to let you know it's got high ratings and almost 1,000 ratings right now.
That's amazing.
It is very, very exciting. So you guys, if you're interested, I see a small synopsis, but for those of you who haven't seen it,
you got to check this movie out.
Can you tell us just a quick synopsis of what this movie is about?
Yeah, it's about these three Kung Fu classmates who grew up training together, but grow up and grow apart and go their separate ways. And when they find out their master is killed, they have to get back together and find out what happened. But now they have jobs, they have wives, they have kids. And the way we kind of say it is, imagine if you had to go fight a challenge match, but you have to go pick up your kid from soccer before. So that's kind of the whole gag of the film, and just really exploring those relationships, getting old, growing apart, and getting back together, and just what all that means, whether those things that you had valued as a youth, whether that still is important for you.
That's a great
sublime execution too. It really was a charming film. It really was.
And I also want to show you guys too, because Ron Yuan is in it. He plays Hing. He's so funny. He offers a lot of the comic relief in this movie. You will just die. And like I said, he is
Mulan.
in Mulan.
Yeah.
You guys, the live action Mulan. So we want to show you that too, because it is available here on Amazon Prime. If you haven't seen it yet, it's going to pop up right underneath the bow. This is Mulan, and you can get this here on Amazon Prime Video. You can also get it in Blu-ray and DVD. You can also get it in 4K if you guys are interested in seeing. Watch, of course, the Paper Tigers.
Yeah.
And then if you love Hing, the character Hing, he is in this movie as well.
Yeah, are you guys, I saw the theatrical release too? When I was searching?
Yeah, Yeah, we had a theatrical release in early May, and then we were also
awesome.
on Amazon Prime streaming, and now we're on Blu-ray and DVD. So we're trying to hit all the home runs in the basics.
Yeah, word of mouth.
Well, you know,
Word of mouth.
this is the funny story, you guys. This dropped on the 22nd. And if you guys remember here in the world of Amazon, it was Amazon Prime Day. So Bao wanted to come on, and his publicist wanted to come on that day. And I said, Bao, you are welcome to come on. However, we're getting up at 2 o'clock in the morning, and I will be here at 4 a.m. If you want to come on Seattle time, that is fine with me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I got a one line back. It's like, how about if we make it then?
A little too early. A little too early.
So I knew that was going to happen. Sherry says, good morning to you, Val.
Good morning, Sherry.
So as you know, we're
watch this film.
talking about The Paper Tigers. This is a terrific movie. You guys have got to see it right here on Amazon Prime. And because Yuji Okamoto was in this film, he also produces it. I want to show you where many of you guys have seen him. Many of you guys have seen him in this much, much loved movie that's going to pop right underneath Bao right now. This is The Karate Kid Part 2. Doesn't he play the main bad guy?
He does. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Isn't that crazy? He's such a nice guy.
Love to hate him so much.
So you love to hate him. He is in this movie, The Karate Kid Part 2. You can get it right here. You can rent it on Amazon Prime here in high definition. You can also purchase this movie too, as well, right here. And then Alan too, Alain Oy is here too. And we wanted to show you guys what you were saying, Bao, is that he is. You can be seen in True Detective, right?
Yes.
Now, I don't know if you guys have seen this. This is an amazing series.
It really is.
It's got over 6,000 reviews at 5 stars to tell you what a great series this is. You and I have seen this.
Yeah, loved it.
You can get each episode here in high definition on Amazon Prime Video, and you can also buy the entire season here on Amazon Prime Video. So we encourage you, if you love these characters that you are going to see here in The Paper Tigers, like we did. You got to watch The Paper Tigers.
Yeah.
And then you can also see them in these other projects that are available here on Amazon Prime. So, Bao, what else is going on? What else is going on? We can look forward to seeing you in or what you're creating.
Well, yeah, hopefully we'll have some other projects. Still working on some writing and stuff like that. But, we've been so busy, like we were saying. We were in theaters, so we're still in some theaters as we speak. So we've been going around the country and meeting folks and making showing up at the show times and trying to drum up some ticket sales to get people to, I think it's a great time to come back to theaters.
Oh, it most definitely is.
Big screen, and we just want to be able to enjoy it and meet as many new fans as we can.
Yeah.
Well, that brings up.
I want the sequel.
You want the sequel?
I want the sequel.
You just need to go into Gong Fu class.
Well, no, I'm not that flexible. I'm just trying to stretch, and it was fascinating because it really is about the flexibility. So I'm trying. I'm working on it.
Standing on your can.
Standing on my can.
Standing on your paint can this weekend. So that brings up a good point too, because if people want to see this in theaters and everything, about how do people follow you? Like if they want to follow your social media, you guys follow him, and then also your website to find out how to see what you're doing. How would they go about doing that?
Yeah, the best bet is to go to thepapertigersmovie.com, and you can find us all the theater information, all the Amazon Prime info, and basically all our social media that you can follow. Probably the fastest way is just kind of follow us on social media and see where we're at, because we'll be touring across the country in theaters, and we're basically booking as we go. So there's whoever is willing to kind of sponsor and book the screenings. We're going out to each city to screen. So. So that's the best way to get us, and hopefully we'll be able to meet in person if you're in the cities that we go to.
Yeah, I'll tell you, this movie is really just word of mouth. It's going to keep getting legs as it goes, because it really was an enjoyable watch. Hey, funny story. Unrelated. So when I in '93 lived in a house with a bunch of friends coming out here doing the whole thing. It was Shannon Lee's. It was Bruce Lee's. Sister's house that we were in.
I remember that.
6 degrees of separation. It's kind of
that.
Crazy. So.
And just to let you know too, that as soon as he finished watching the movie, he got on the phone with his producing partner, and he was like, "You've got to see this movie.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, let me see if I can find it for you."
I'm championing it, man.
So he was already telling everybody about it.
Yeah.
So you guys, you've got to see The Paper Tigers. We're just
Check it out.
encouraging you again. It's a wonderful, wonderful movie. Thank you,
Yes,
Bao Tron,
it's a
so
pleasure
much.
for spending this time with you, and kudos, man. Amazing, amazing film. Thank you for sharing.